And please excuse us for the slightly late start to this morning's show. We've had a few internet problems. Someone came and stole it just before the show. But we've managed to get it all back again, and we're all back on track from both here in the Kruger National Park in South Africa, as well as in the Mara Game Reserve in southern Kenya. And I'm sure we're going to have a jam-packed show for you today. Like I just said in that opening, we've got leopard around the camp. There was that young male leopard from last night, which we're going to go and see if we can find out what happened to him last night. He missed 3 kills while we were watching, just in the space of about an hour and a half. So he's hunting, actively hunting. We're going to go see what he got up to last night. Then there were a bunch of lions that we left hunting around Galago Pan last night. Skinny and Kahuma females with a bunch of hungry, expectant cubs looking for their moms for dinner, or looking to their moms for dinner. Now, what we're going to be doing is leaving the lions up to the vehicles, or the guides with the vehicles to go and find this morning, mainly because of those 3 tiny little cubs. You don't want to walk too much into lions with tiny babies. It's dangerous. Moms don't go anywhere. The natural instinct for lion cubs of that size is to hide in the first bush. That means that mom doesn't go anywhere from that particular bush. And if you happen to sneak up on lions like that, it gets a bit dangerous. So we don't want to do that just yet. If we can possibly help it, we're going to go look for those leopard in that thick bush, and who knows what we're going to be pulling out of the bush as well during that time. You know, even the best laid plans quite often are waylaid by other things. Now, it is an interactive show. Remember the fact that you can, using that question bar on YouTube and on Twitter, you can ask me some questions, and throughout the course of the show we'll try and answer as many relevant questions as what we can. And please do send in your questions. Please send in your comments, any stories that you had if you visited here, would like to visit here. They can sometimes spark off the most unbelievable discussions, so don't be shy at all. Now, VM is doing a fantastic job of walking backwards through the bush here along a very, I wouldn't say, it's an obscure game path. You can see what I'm busy following here behind us there, and he's on camera with us today, and of course the supernatural being that he is can see out the back of his head and allow us to, I don't know, allow him not to fall over. I don't quite know how he's doing it. What is quite interesting this time of the year, these are these monkey thorns. This is the green monkey thorn, and this you get the black monkey thorn and you get the green monkey thorn out here. They're part of the genus Strychnos, and you quite rightly guessed that it comes from the fact that this particular plant does have strychnine in it. In their seeds, they get a big green fruit, and inside the green fruit are a bunch of sort of disc-like seeds, and inside the seeds are pretty high concentrations of strychnine. But not in Africa. In the African examples, you don't find that much strychnine, but in the Indian examples of this particular tree, you do. And this is where they were first described. They form these thickets close to pans here, and generally on the top of these, in the crests of these hills. And you'd notice them from the vehicles. When we drive over them, they make the most unbelievably screeching noises as they scratch down the paintwork. It's quite a hardy bush. You can see here, I can hang on this tree, and it's got a bit of resilience to it. So a very hardy bush, not much eats it, I'll be honest with you. The fruit is lovely though. The fruit, they get about this big. You don't really see the fruit inside the game reserves because the elephants gobble them up before they're even ripe. But they get about this big, and they go a yellow color when they're ripe and smell like bubblegum, like a pink bubblegum sweet. Most delicious smell. The taste, of course, is also fantastic. It's got a guava-y taste with a bit of apple mixed in with it, like a sour tang to it. This time of the year, though, they don't have leaves on and they don't have fruit, but there are these scraggly bushes that are still busy growing, and we're hoping that at some point elephant would start to eat it. Now, we thought that that's what happened during the drought that we had here a couple of years ago now. and that the elephant would be reduced to eating these, and that's what their biological control would be. But it didn't happen, and they didn't die out in the drought. Not as much as sickle bush did, at least anyway. But that's when I find a sickle bush, I'll show you what I mean by that. So these guys are still alive, they're still growing, and they're still proliferating on top of these crests, particularly the crests of the hills close to where you find permanent water. And I think it's a sign of, I don't know what it is. I want to say that it's a sign of overgrazing, or at least an increased animal pressure. When I started in the Sabi sands 20 years ago, there wasn't any of this stuff. But then again, there also weren't as many pumped pans, there weren't as many lodges, there weren't as many people. So it's an interesting thing, this sort of ebbs and flows. Now, Jared's buddy, you want to know if the thorns or the spines on this hurt the elephants when they eat them. An elephant's mouth is very similar to your own, Jared's buddy. If you stick your hand into your mouth and you feel your tongue is like this rubbery appendage that's very sensitive, as are your lips. You know, to try and pierce through your lip or to try and hurt your lip is actually quite a difficult thing, even though it's so sensitive. Now, you can imagine that times 100 with an elephant. They've got very sensitive bottom lip that can change shape and form. They've got a bunch of hairs on that lip, and then they've got this soft rubbery tongue that basically envelops this and pulls it into their mouth and then puts it between their molars. And an elephant's molars are like bricks of butter. They're big. They've got 2 in the top, 2 in the bottom, 2 on one side, 2 on another, 2 on one side, 2 on another. So 4 in the top, and are basically this big, and they'll put this and they'll grind up the thorns. So the thorns never really touch the elephant's, it's like a hot thing in your own mouth or a spiky thing in your own mouth. You can get around it just by manipulating it. So we don't see the thorns hurting the elephants too much, to be honest. The stuff that they put in their mouth and chew, it's unbelievable. Branches as thick as your arm, easily, cracking down branches this thick, just biting them in half. Now, we're going to carry on with this game path. It looks like it starts to open up a little bit down there, and the reason for that is that there's a pan down there, and that's where this game path is going. It's going from Djuma pan at the camp all the way down this path to the other mud wallow or pan. You probably find it was used by elephant and buffalo extensively over the last couple of months. Right now, though, the only water that's around is the one at Djuma. Christian, you'd like to know if I worry about snakes when doing bushwalks. I don't actually, Christian. It's one of those things that you don't see so often on a walk. You do get snakes on walk, obviously. They are common. You do see them from time to time. But to see a deadly snake that has an encounter with you that is potentially life-threatening is very rare. I could probably count on my one hand the amount of times I've had a snake, a dangerous snake, close to me on walk. The most notable that comes to me right now is a story of one of my very first bushwalks. I was walking on the side of a river, and I stopped and wondered why there was a piece of pipe lying across the pathway I was walking on. And when I looked, it was the body of a black mamba, which was about this thick, not much thicker than that. And when I followed the body, the head was lying behind me, just next to my foot. And ended up doing 2 jumps away from the snake. The snake raised its head and looked at me a little bit, and then slithered off into a nearby termite mound, which was obviously where it was spending its time. And that was about the closest that I've come to a dangerous encounter on a walk. I've stepped over puff adders, I've stepped over pythons, I've stepped onto a night adder that bit my shoe, but they're tiny little snakes, and so it did nothing. And I mean, I've logged probably close on 16,000 hours of trails on foot, and in all that time I can only tell you those few little stories. So it's not a very common thing at all, Christian, so it's not to worry. They are here. If you're going to get bitten, you're going to get bitten, whether it's going to be a snake or an elephant or a lion or a leopard or anything like that. Let's see what is down there. Now, why don't we send you over to Scott, who has got some cheetah for you. We're going to carry on down here.
Well, let's hope Steph does manage to find you guys a snake on bushwalk. Wouldn't that be exciting? We've got very lucky. We have found Malika and her 2 sons not too far from where we saw them yesterday afternoon. They were very full-bellied then, but that may not be the case this morning. Now you can see this young boy. He's looking out quite intently to the south, and let's take a look at what he's looking at. Off to the left a little bit, just in front of that green belt, you may start noticing a few white spots, a little bit more to the left, I think. Keep going. There we go. That's what he's looking at. Some Thomason's gazelles. And the only animals I've seen these cheetah chase are scrub hare one morning, as well as some wildebeest just a few days ago. But I've yet to see them hurtle after a Thomason's gazelle. It would be an epic showdown. Thompson's gazelle are well matched to the cheetah because they are super, super quick. And maybe a little bit later, once they decide to wake up, they will chase them. My name's Scott. I'm teamed up with Craig on camera this morning, and it's a beautiful, beautiful morning here in Kenya. We've got James out to the south of us. He's been staying at Sala's camp. We stay at multiple camps when we try and traverse certain areas of the reserve that are far away from our camp. So like I say, James is to the south of us around Sala's. Hopefully he'll have some good migration action there. There's still quite a few herds in that area, and Brent is headed out in search of, I'm guessing, some tiny little cheetah cubs that he was lucky enough to see yesterday evening, as well as some of you guys. I'm told it was just a kind of glimpse of them, so maybe this morning he'll get lucky and get some better visuals. So good prospects. You're being taken around by Steph on foot in the Sabi sands, and the 3 of us are searching for any kind of action here in the Mara. Now our plan is to probably invest the morning with these cheetah. Let's take a look at her belly there. Still looking comfortably full. But yesterday they were kind of fairly bloated. I'm told they killed a young wildebeest, not yesterday, but the evening before. But a young wildebeest between these 3 is a very good meal, so they haven't had to move much or do much since then. But as you can see, they're beginning to groom themselves. These are good signs that they are in fact going to get up and active. I hope they do fairly soon. I've got beginning to get a bit of a feeling that she's not a morning person. She likes to sleep in the morning. Only time will tell, though. For now, though, you are heading across to James, so I'm told has positioned himself for a beautiful, beautiful sunrise.
We have positioned ourselves for a beautiful sunrise. Good morning to you all. We've positioned ourselves not only for a beautiful sunrise, but hopefully also for a picture of the little cubs of the Black Rock Pride, as and when they come out of their den. They're not going to come out until the mothers arrive. The mothers are not here at the moment, and we don't know where they are. My name is James Henry. Fergus is on camera. We had a very pleasant evening at Sala's camp last night, and we got back here about 45 minutes to an hour ago, and we were hoping that we'd find the females arriving pretty much as the sun came up, but as normally happens in nature, of course, well, things just weren't quite as predictable as we had hoped. Please do talk to us, as always, on the hashtag Safari Live or in the chat stream of the YouTube broadcast that you're watching. And we're going to sit here probably for the next hour or so and just see if the mothers don't come back to feed their little youngsters, and we'll try and capture, of course, the little things coming out of the den site and the reunion between mother and cubs. Otherwise, we'll move along and see what else we can find. But in general, the big thing for us is going to be to try and capture that reunion. Okay, we'll just have a quick look again as to where they are. It's very bright suddenly. We're going to probably move around the other side and wait in order not to blind ourselves entirely. But it's a gorgeous morning. It's relatively still. It's probably about, I'm going to guess, I'm going to say about 68 degrees Fahrenheit or so, around about 18 degrees Celsius. And it's going to warm up quite quickly as the blinding sun continues its inexorable rise. Very little cloud cover, which is very nice for the morning and the dawn. It's great to have you with us, and it's great to have great to hear that Scott has got Malika and the youngsters. I'm sure Brent will be heading towards those little cheetah cubs that he found yesterday. That's really exciting stuff. And so we've got, well, as Scott likes to say, good prospects for the morning. We seem to be the ones with the least content at the moment, but with any luck we'll have some more very soon. Steph, of course, knocking about, I think, on foot all the way in South Africa. We're not going to go back to him. We're going to go back now to the highly irascible and excitable Brent Leo Cheetah Cub Smith.
Welcome. I'm very, very excited this morning. I'm racing down towards where we found that cheetah den. Now, I think Bomb's already out and about, so I'm going to look for her. She was hungry when she went to feed the cubs. Hello, hyena. Bye, hyena. We've got cheetah to find, hyena. So we're heading up towards the escarpment. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Manu on camera. Manu, the cub finder. There we go. Manu, don't leave me hanging here. There we go. And so her den is in an ideal spot, really high up on the escarpment, and I'm hoping we will find her hunting, and maybe she'll lead us back towards that den again. Now, it's perfect for a couple of reasons. One, cars can't get close to her den. With little cheetahs, sometimes people tend to get so overwhelmed by the cuteness, they go a little bit too close. So
Welcome back, everyone. Apologies, you obviously lost signal with Brent there. That's why he got rushed across to us, but perfect timing. The cheetah are up and moving. Now we're going to have to race around this little thicket that they appear to be heading towards in order to be able to relocate them on the other side. Excuse me, there's quite a lot of game on the other side, and I'm guessing that's why they are heading there. The mother, which is in the front now, that you can see there, was looking quite intently in that direction. And morning, Malika. I am happy to see that you are up and not sleeping in like you have been a lot of the mornings we've spent with you. And you can tell her apart from her boys because she lacks the little mohawk down the back of her neck. The two young boys still have those remnants of a little bit of bum fluff. There we go, you can see clearly there. And that's going to disappear in the next couple of months or so, I'm guessing. Isn't this just beautiful? Cheetahs on the move at first light. Like I said, though, we're going to have to do a little bit of racing around to be able to get you guys into a good spot in case they do decide to chase something on the other side of this little thicket that they're heading towards. So, off we go. Okay, got it. Woohoo! So I've had to improvise. I've made a blanket poncho. The 3-liter thermos that carries our hot water decided to explode yesterday in the footwell of the vehicle, so it drenched my jacket and jersey that were down there with it. It's quite nice, actually. That my head. It should just take us about a minute or two to get round, so don't worry, we're not going to be racing like this for too long. But when following the fastest mammal on the planet, you have to be prepared to act like them, otherwise you may get left in a cloud of dust, and we do not want that.
One, two. Hello everybody. I'm sorry, not sure what happened there. Here we are. We are still here, waiting, hopefully. Sorry, just trying to fix one or two things as we came live, so you'll have to excuse the, well, I guess the rufflings and things like that. We haven't moved. Still waiting for our youngsters, at least for the mothers, to come back. And with any luck, they'll do so in not too long from now. can be a frustrating process. This can be a frustrating process, this waiting, but you know, this is what happens out here. And I mean, if you happen to be a filmmaker, for example, that makes these documentaries, these magnificent documentaries that you see on the various wildlife channels, well, as Fergus will tell you, because he's done it many times himself, the amount of time spent waiting versus filming is quite astonishing. Not so, Fergus? Exactly. Okay, I think I have my hat on now. There should be no more ruffling after this. Just the gentle sound of an easterly breeze blowing through here. We've got a number of tourist vehicles also hoping desperately. And this is where I'm so glad I'm not a guide anymore, because to now sit here with guests, what do you do? They're here for 2 days, 3 days maybe. Do you sit here and wait for an hour, or do you go and try and find something else and then come back, but then you risk missing them? So what do you do? That's the great joy of not having to be a guide anymore, you see. We can have the pleasure of just waiting. George, you want to know what time lion cubs wake up? Normally around 7:15, George. So with any luck, we've probably got about 15 minutes or so to wait before they wake up and have their first meal. George, I'm obviously talking rubbish. It's impossible to say what time they wake up. They actually keep relatively irregular hours. They will wake up when the mums come to feed them, and then they'll play and mess about, and then they'll sleep again for a while, and then they'll wake up again, and it really is difficult to predict. And we were with a guide earlier on, and he said that he was going to go away and come back at about 11 o'clock here. So I thought that was quite late to be coming back here, but you know, he may well be right. That's when they'll wake up and come about. Yesterday, when we got here, we found the 2 lionesses. What time was it, Fergus? Probably about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And almost immediately the lionesses got up and moved towards the cubs and sort of called them out of the rocks, and then they fed them, which was wonderful. The thing is, though, I think it's probably different for every pride. It's probably different every time. And while this pride may well have some kind of a rhythm going, we don't know what that rhythm is at the moment, because we have not spent enough time around them just yet. So with any luck, we'll be able to figure that out over the next few days or so. Those other vehicles have given up and moved off. So we're going to head back towards Steph now in the next 20 seconds. He is on foot. I'm very much looking forward, I must say, when I go back to Djuma, I'm very much looking forward to getting out on foot with Herbert again and doing some tracking, which will be great fun. And you're now going to go and do some tracking with Steph.
I feel that since you have those fantastic cheetah on the hunt, we couldn't help but reciprocate with something. And I want to take you to a leopard in a tree over there, but it's not a real leopard, it's just a leopard orchid. And it's one of VM's favorite plants, and so we thought that we'd go and see if it's flowering. This time of the year, there's a good chance that the orchid has some flowers. I know all the other orchids have, and I want to go and see if it does. They're quite nice flowers, in actual fact. And I don't even know about this one. Oh, VM says he doesn't even know about this one, and he keeps tabs on all the big orchids around here. They're very nice things to do. Now, orchids are quite weird things in that they don't actually use the plant that they're sitting on as a host, so they're not saprophytic. What they do is they create this mesh in this basket of very fine roots, and that catches a bunch of detritus, bark and dust in the air, and from that the orchid actually derives all its nutrients. So it just uses the elevated position for sunlight, and that's it. Doesn't use it for anything else. And a big orchid like this is probably in the region of about 20 years old already. You get them bigger than that, they grow to about double the size, and when they get to about that size, it's about maximum that they'll then get to. This one doesn't have any flowers on yet, unfortunately, but at the bottom of it you can quite clearly see that basket that it grows for itself, and it'll use that basket not only for support but then also to trap any airborne dust particles, any leaf litter that falls around from the actual tree. And you can actually see inside that orchid's basket, you can see a bunch of dead leaves, and they would have blown in there with the wind. And as they decompose, they catch water, and that's how it'll get its nutrients. Now, Chastity, you say here you've been wanting to see an orchid in the wild for so long. I'm glad we could show it to you then, Chastity. We dedicate this orchid to you. It is your orchid. We'll call it Chastity's orchid from now on, considering that VM didn't even know this was here and needs to give it a name. We name all good things here. This is another thing. Since we're here, come and say hello to this tree. This is a Tamboti tree. Actually, is it? Yes, it's a Tamboti tree. Not the typical blocked bark lower down, and that's because this tree is fairly old. It's not the largest of the Tambotis that we have out here. This is about half the width of the largest Tamboti we can see, but definitely an old guy. You're looking at a couple of 100 years old already for this particular tree, and they grow the most fantastic shapes. They grow nice straight up. And they grow in thickets, and they're used for a variety of different things. Generally speaking, though, the sap is used to treat infestations of worms and parasites in cattle, and to keep wounds clean. So we saw that lioness last night with that massive gaping wound on her back leg. If that was in a cow, in one of the cattle that the local guys store their wealth is in cattle, and it had been horned by another bull, for instance, they would drill into this with their knives, collect the sap in some grass, and then drip the sap into that wound, and that will clear the wound of any parasites or any fly maggots or anything. It'll also burn off all the dead tissue. This is quite caustic, the sap that grows inside here. And that's just one of the many uses of a Tamboti tree. Beautiful. Now, Jared's buddy, you'd like to know if any of these trees or flowers grow in America. That's a good question, Jared's buddy. No, they don't. You'll find examples of these trees growing in North America, but it's a very different climate there than it is to here. And so, not really. I don't remember or don't recall. I don't recall that at all. Another good use for this tree. Although, that said, I'm going to say something now, Jared's buddy, that'll discount what I've just said. This tree is also called the African cedar, and it's because it has the most wonderful sandalwoody smell. But have a look at how beautiful the wood grain is on the inside of that. I can turn it. This is how it weathers. You can see how the lichen grows on it, because it's such a hard wood, and the same sap that gives it that caustic parasite removing quantity gives it this beautiful sandalwood smell. And you can take shavings of this and you can put it in your clothes in your room. It keeps away things like fish moths, and that. You can even use it as an insect repellent. You take shavings of this and you throw it into a fire around where you're sitting, and it'll chase away mosquitoes and flies. But of course you can't cook on it, as we've so often said. A stick like this, you cook your food over, it's enough to make you very sick, give you a runny tummy. But it has a fantastic smell for a while, and then you start to smell too much of it, and then it starts to get a bit sickening. That does smell good though. Alrighty, let's carry on. Lack, you'd like to know if the sap from these Tambotis is poisonous to humans. Let me show you the sack there before VM decides to. Let me show you the sap, not the sack. So here you go. You'll see it start to leak out there. You see this white sap coming out there? That is the milky latex that is the sap of a tamboti. And it's that young herd boys would collect in grass. They'll collect it on a porous grass, and they'll drip it into a wound, and it'll clean out maggots. It actually cleans out bacteria, maggots, dead flesh. It's strong enough that if I had to take this and I had to put it on the inside of my arm here, wipe it there, and just close my arm for a bit and then open it and wipe it off, it'll burn a blister there. Not quite as bad as the latex in a euphorbia, but definitely bad. I may even have told this story before, actually, to some of you. A friend of mine broke his tooth on a wilderness backpacking trail. He cracked it on a bone that was in a piece of meat that he was eating. And the root was exposed, and it was incredibly painful, and the painkillers he had were inadequate. He obviously couldn't get to a dentist, and he decided to take the advice that he had from the herd boys around his track at the time, and he took some of the sap and he dripped it using a leaf stalk into the cavity, and he said it was the most unbelievably painful thing that he had done in his life, but it actually gave him a root canal. It completely cleared the cracked tooth of the exposed nerve, of the exposed root of the tooth. And when he got off the trail, he was fine, no infection, went to the dentist, had it all patched up and cleaned out. And that was all from this. A friend of mine called Malcolm Douglas. Crazy, eh? All the tamboti tree. This is a young one. We're walking through a tamboti thicket, in actual fact, which is quite a rare thing with only one big tree. So this thicket that we're standing in the middle will then be quite a waterlogged area come summer. It will get nice and thick, and it has one parent tree, this one, and I think this was probably the parent of all of them here. Alright, we're going to send you all the way north back into Kenya to Scott, who's still with those cheetah.
Well, is this not just the most awesome view? Mum sitting up, the two boys in the front in perfect morning sunlight, trying to figure out what their plans are for the day. I can't believe one of Steph's friends put tamboti sap into one of his tooth cavities to fix an issue there. That's quite something. And happy to hear it worked. I don't know if I would be so brave. Now, like I said a little bit earlier, James is further south of us in the reserve, and he will be, in theory, in and amongst more of the migrating herds than we are here. But even beyond these cheetah in the background, there are quite a large amount of wildebeest still about midway up the reserve from north to south. Look at all those little black dots there. Those are all wildebeest. So I'd say there's at least about 1,000 there. Beautiful. So the migration is not over yet. We just need to follow it for as long as we possibly can until they all depart. Well, not all of them. Some of them will remain behind. So that's one thing that we can bear in mind for the coming months. A large amount of wildebeest will no longer be roaming these plains. But something else that we can bear in mind is the fact that these two brothers are going to leave Mom and start a life of their own. It could be any time within the next few months. And when they do, if we are lucky enough to be able to follow them, we are going to be spoiled with a whole bunch of action. And the reason being is that they are still going to be inexperienced hunters. They've been relying on their mother a lot, I presume. I haven't seen too much of them, so I don't know the ins and outs, but one would assume that they are not experienced due to their age. And that means we are going to get to see them chase and fail multiple times, more so than an experienced adult cheetah. Not only that, not only the inexperienced, but they also have youthful energy because they are young, I guess. So I'm looking forward to following them as much as we possibly can, because I think they are going to deliver us some incredible, incredible sights. I didn't get your name, but somebody would like to know when exactly will these two guys leave? And I think it's OD farming, and it's hard to tell. I mean, there's two sisters that are younger than these two brothers that have already left their mother. So the fact that two sisters left before two males that'll be slightly bigger than the females is quite interesting, but it is imminent. They are certainly coming of age, and anywhere from around 14 months to 2 years of age, cheetah will head off. I guess no different from the leopard down in the Sabi sands. It varies from time to time, and each litter and each individual animal is slightly different from the next. Just like us as humans, you may ask the question, well, when would an adolescent teenager leave their home in New York? And it all depends on the individual and the family who you're looking at. Some people hang on to their parents for a lot longer than others, and some may leave a lot earlier for whatever circumstances or reasons there may be. So no different in the wild, and we're in luck. It looks like they have decided to make their next move. I'm hoping it's towards a massive herd of Thompson's gazelle, which is behind us. So if she heads towards us, which she looks to be doing, it means the prospects are good to see them doing some hunting. So we need to get into position. My plan is to try and get us onto the other side of the Thompson's gazelle. We're just trying to keep in front of the cheetah so that we make sure we get you guys in pole position for any action that may unfold. Having said that, though, I can't see where all the Thompson's gazelle have gone. Maybe they're just over this little ridge. There was a whole bunch, I'd say about 100 or so, just off to the right. And the cheetah appeared to be heading in that general direction. I spoke about this tree that you can see over there. We've seen the Musketeer Coalition scent mark on that tree. One of them actually climbed up it as well. That was a few weeks ago. I'm not sure when last they were here, but I'm guessing that Malika may head towards it to get a bit of an update on which cheetah have been moving through this area. So it appears like the Thompson's gazelles may have moved off a little bit. All I can see there is a giraffe silhouetted. The giraffe's looking quite intently towards the cheetah. It's spotted them already. Very, very good. So I'm thinking what we should do is maybe wait over here to see what the cheetah do. Like I said, I'd be surprised if they don't come to this tree. It's kind of like the equivalent of an internet cafe for them. They'll come here and read into the signs of what other cheetah have been doing, who's in the area. Another thing that I'm really excited to share with you guys is an interaction between two different groups of cheetah. It's something we've yet to share with you since we've been in the Mara. Imagine if the Musketeer Coalition came across these three. We'd have 8 cheetah in one sighting, and I fear that the coalition would possibly bully these 2 young males. Hard to be certain, though. And maybe we'll be lucky enough for that to happen this morning. Hello to Shamson. You would like to know if cheetah will evolve to hunt in groups to achieve higher success. And I guess you might mean female cheetah, because male cheetah already do that. Look, I guess anything's possible, but we're talking a long time, and I'm guessing if it hasn't happened by now, it may not happen in our lifetime or our children's. So I'm guessing the answer to that would be no, but I would not consider myself an expert in forecasting evolution of animals. Like I said, my guess is that if it hasn't happened now, by now it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. I guess we may have already destroyed the planet before the cheetah gets such a chance to do that in the next million years, or however long it's going to take. Unless, of course, we all start behaving a little bit better. But at the moment, I think, in terms of a long-term evolutionary plan for these cheetah, I don't foresee any changes. You guys really aren't a morning bunch, are you? But at least we've seen them on the move a little bit, and what I have learned with these cheetah is that they often do hunt quite a lot during the day, or at least this specific female and her boys. A lot of the time when we've left them during the day, we come back in the afternoon to see them full-bellied. Now, we're going to be sending you off to Steph, who's trying to track down another spotted cat.
Welcome back to the walk, and you got us walking down the road. We're busy marching, and we're marching because we want to get into the area where we left young Hosanna last night. It was right on our southern boundary, and probably about 200 meters or so north of our southern boundary, and it takes a good sort of 25 minutes or so to walk there. And one of the roads that we like to use quite often is this road right here. This is a linked road. It goes to a place called Chelepan, which is a nice like meeting point for a lot of different animals. If you're going to start tracking something on foot, Chelepan is always the place to do. And already we've got some decent tracks going on. There's some fresh elephant tracks over here. Have a look. Now I know they're fresh because you can actually see the veins. These are the veins in the track. Now by veins I don't mean blood vessel veins, I mean cracks in the heel of the elephant that is pushed up, well, sand is pushed up into it and left these ridges. But just have a look how sharp that is, and you can see all the fine detail there. Look there and there. And of course, as the breeze comes along, let me show you how quickly these tracks disappear. As the breeze comes along this morning, and that track all but disappears in not even 30 seconds of a very light breeze. You take something a bit harder and it's gone. And that is basically how I know, how you judge the freshness of these tracks, is you look at how sharp the detail is in the tracks. I'm fully expecting there to be an elephant pretty close. There was a breeze last night when we got back from drive, and so this was done sometime in the last couple of hours. I don't think it's fresh like as in now, but I definitely think that there are elephant around here. And while we're here, I want to check on one thing. Let's come and have a look here. This is the site of the largest colony of trapjaw ants that I found in the last couple of years. And generally in summer these things are very difficult to see because this bush that it lies under is lush and thick. I don't actually see any trapjaw ants here. These colonies do move on. They are carnivorous ants, and they will move on depending on what food resources are available. But that is going to be quite sad if they've now moved on completely. This was the entrance here. Oh no, this colony's moved on to other pastures. This is just one of our colleagues. We're quite close to that junction, that Chelepan junction now, and so with me not being in the middle of a block, there's every chance that now, Deadhead Charm, you would like to know, are the termite mounds here larger than the termite mounds in the Mara? Substantially larger. The reason for that is that the water table here is much lower than what the water table is in the Mara. And essentially a termite mound is just a big air conditioning system that allows for the effective heating and humidity control of a fungus bed in a fungus garden. The larger the termite mound, the deeper the water, or the sandier the base underneath that particular termite mound. In the Mara, the termite mounds are this big. Some of them get to about this height, but because of that very clay base in the river, the termite mounds are very rarely bigger than what I am, with the odd exception that is a small mound. Whereas the termite mounds here are some of the largest termite mounds in Africa, with the only place that I've seen larger termite mounds being, let me just think, probably Zambia. If I were to Zambia, Botswana has a few epically massive termite mounds, but Zambia comes to mind as a place where, in the national parks, Kafue and the South Luangwa, where I've seen massive termite mounds. But the Kruger easily, and this area easily ranks as some of the largest termite mounds that I've ever seen in my life. So, no, it's definitely here. The termite mounds outrank the Mara's termite mounds. Right, we're going to carry on down this road. We're going to be marching probably to that tree line that you see over there before we start to slow down, and we're really going to concentrate on that area to try and see if we can pick up any of young Hosana's tracks. In the meantime, we're going to be sending you back out to the Mara and to Scott's Cheetah.
Well, luckily these cheetah decided to perch themselves on one of these Mara termite mounds, and this is about as big as they get. I mean, it depends on where you are in the Mara. There are certain areas where you do get taller termite mounds, and it all really depends on, I guess, the substrate of the earth that causes them to sometimes build taller mounds. Also, the temperatures involved. In hotter areas, they'll need to build bigger, taller chimneys for better cooling of the mound so that they can maintain the right temperature within which to farm their fungus, which they feed on. Interestingly, this female cheetah, because the termite mounds are not hugely plentiful in the Mara, as well as the fact that they're not too tall, she has started adopting vehicles as her termite mounds. I've yet to see this. I've just heard of her doing it. It's a bit of a tricky one. Of course, everyone would love to have a cheetah jump on their vehicle, including myself. However, that's a bit selfish, and I think it's far better that we actually don't allow animals to cross that level of friendliness with us. It's a bit too much, and you can imagine just if, the cheetah does jump onto a vehicle and the guests get a fright or spook it and she slips or swats one of them. So if she does ever start eyeballing our hood of the vehicle, I will have to deter her from doing that, possibly by just banging the side of the car. But interesting nonetheless. And I also heard that one of her daughters, not so long ago, jumped onto the vehicle of a car. So obviously one of her daughters from a previous litter has adopted that same clever technique of hers. Beautiful. Now we positioned ourselves on this side of them, looking into the sun, in the hope that we'd be able to get you some two shots of the giraffes that were spying on them. But the giraffes seem to have disappeared behind the ridge beyond them. So no joy with that. Hello, Jahazman, you would like to know how many miles would a cheetah walk in a day? Well, it all depends on multiple variables, whether a female's looking for a male, whether they're hungry, whether there's prey around. As far as I'm aware, since Saturday morning, when we were with them for the last TV show, they have not moved more than a mile. And that's in, 3 or 4 days. They've been in a very, very small area, relatively speaking. But that's just these guys over the last few days. The Musketeer Coalition of 5 males, for example, I mean, we followed them moving 10 miles just in one night, so they can move quite large distances quite easily, but again, males will have different motives and intentions than the females, and the males will also have territories that they need to patrol and monitor and scent mark, whereas the females don't. Female cheetahs are fairly free ranging. They've just got an general area where they kind of like to hang out, so you'd call that a home range more than a territory. They don't scent mark on trees. They don't fight with other females over territories like lioness and leopardess would. Good stuff. We're going to send you across to Brent now, who is perusing the plains looking for any action.
Well, we're cruising the edge of the escarpment at the moment, so I've checked that female cheetah's den where we saw those two tiny cubs yesterday, and she's not there, and if she is, I can't see her. So I'm now just checking very carefully in the area I think she might be hunting. There's some very tiny baby topi born in the last couple of days that would definitely attract her, but she seems to have developed a very niche hunting strategy while up on the escarpment, and that is Oribi. So she's constantly in amongst those rocks looking for Oribi, which are territorial and do live in pairs. So I think she might be slowly depleting the Oribi population. Hello, is this her? No, I thought I saw her tracks. It's hyena tracks. So this is one of the few areas where I can do a bit of tracking, check the roads. But she doesn't seem to walk on the road very often at all. She prefers to spend her time much closer to the escarpment, which is a very good tactic. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a little peruse with the camera and with binoculars, because yesterday we found her almost right at the end of the grass and the beginning of the trees, walking along way up high. Hi, Ali. Ali is wondering who are the closest relatives of the cheetah. Ooh, Ali, you're not going to believe me, but they live in the Americas. It is the mountain lion, cougar, puma. It goes by many names, but that is the closest other big cat relative to cheetah, is the mountain lion. And Manu's just sitting. So that's how far up we found her yesterday. So from here, she literally looks like a tiny little speck. So what we're doing is we're moving very slowly, stopping, checking with the camera, checking with binoculars, and hoping to catch her moving again. Now, not to say she won't come down to where we are to hunt, especially with the baby topi around. But alas, so far, she has avoided us, but there's a good chance she's going to go back to that den during the day, so we're going to spend the whole day out, see if we can find her. But quickly across to Scott, who's got cheetah on the hunt.
Look at this. As you can see, these cheetah are sneaking up on some impala. We are ready now, Chantal, and just letting Chantal know, who's directing the show, that we are ready to invite some other people on other platforms into what is going to be an incredible show. Hello everyone else who has just joined us, and we have got 3 cheetah who are very intently looking towards a very large herd of both Thompson's gazelle and a few impala, and it actually looks like these antelope are moving kind of towards the cheetah. Not exactly now, they're kind of bobbing and weaving, but they're on the move, and these cheetah, I'm fairly certain, are going to try and catch one for breakfast. It's a female cheetah with her 2 young male sons, and they've literally just got up and started creeping up on this potential prey. They've laid down now, and I guess what they're doing is they're calculating how exactly to plan their attack. But I'm expecting that we are going to see the fastest mammal on the planet to chase some of the hardest prey for them to catch. Thompson's gazelle are very quick, a well-matched showdown that we will be very fortunate to witness. I've never seen this female cheetah doing any serious hunting, and I would love to be able to share it with you. We are in the Masai Mara in Kenya. It's about 7:40 a.m. You can see a whole bunch of wildebeest in the background over there. The remaining herds that are still lingering in these parts of the Mara. And what a wonderful scene this is. So, it's so hard to predict what these animals are going to do. I mean, as you guys saw, they were definitely creeping up on their prey before they decided to take a break on this termite mound. And maybe they've decided to wait and see if the prey doesn't move towards them. It's the ultimate scenario for any predator to be able to cash in on. And we've positioned ourselves, as you can see, a fair distance away from both the cheetah and the impala, but the plan is obviously that the cheetah will run from left to right to where you see them and then possibly continue chasing them to the right. So it could be a long chase and we don't want to be left behind the action. That's why I've tried to get up ahead and slightly elevated, so we're going to be looking down on the action. Therefore, in theory, we shouldn't miss anything that happens. But like I said, they move so quickly and they can cover so much ground in such a short space of time that it's a bit of a lottery deciding where to put the vehicle. Anyway, I think we're sitting pretty here, and I'm guessing that it won't take long for something to happen. Now, for some reason, the people that we invited in to join the hunt on Facebook sadly had some technical issues, but we're going to try and welcome them back. Well, welcome back again, everyone who is joining us on Facebook. Apologies for the small technical issues you may have experienced a bit earlier, but hopefully this time around the picture will stay solid. This is a live safari. We are in the middle of the Masai Mara National Reserve in Kenya, and we have got some wonderful, wonderful prospects here as a female cheetah and her two sons look intently on towards a lot of possible breakfast opportunities, both of which are well suited to the cheetah. Thompson's gazelle being small and very quick, but well suited to a female cheetah, as well as impala. So two species here which will certainly be the perfect breakfast opportunity for these cheetah. If they decide to in fact have breakfast today, they may decide to have dinner this evening as opposed to breakfast this morning. Only time will tell. There's some banded mongooses just in the foreground in front of those Thompson's gazelle. Wonderful, a plethora of animals littering the plains here, and it is certainly one of my favorite things about being in the Mara is that you can be perched in one spot and you can see cheetah, banded mongoose, large herds of wildebeest, Thompson's gazelle, impala off to our right. We've got some more action as well, which we can take a quick squiz at. Let's show the eland and the giraffe. It's a beautiful scene. I'll keep an eye on the cheetah to make sure they don't get up while you're enjoying the other views off to the right. There we go, a beautiful herd of eland and some giraffe in the foreground. So I've lost track of how many animals we've already counted from this one spot, but isn't it absolutely awesome? Now, one thing I'm also wondering about is there's quite a few vehicles positioned off to our kind of 1 o'clock there, and they've been parked there for quite a while, and I wonder what they can see, because all I can see is migrating herds of wildebeest. Guides will not stop for the migrating herds, of course they do, but they've been perched there for quite a while, so I'm wondering if there aren't other predators nearby. There could well be, possibly other cheetah, possibly some lion, who knows. We'll keep an eye on them, and we're certainly going to be keeping an eye on these cheetah because things have calmed down for now. We'll show you one last glimpse of them. Because things have calmed down for now, we are going to send you off to James for a quick update on how his morning's coming along, and we'll be sure to rush you back if anything changes here.
My morning, distressingly, is coming along with great quietness at the moment. We are still staring blankly into the hole that is the place where the cubs are living. There was a little bit of bird alarm calling down to the south of where we're sitting now. We thought maybe we were in luck, but as of yet, the lionesses have not returned. Clearly, otherwise you would have been here some time ago. I think quite possibly they killed last night and are sitting on their carcass, feeding as much as possible before they return. They're definitely going to come back here at some time during the course of the day, but at the moment they are not. I will tell you that the sun is brightening to a quite alarming extent. I'm not sure why it's so bright today, and you do get these days on the equator when the air is very clear and there are not many clouds about. It really can get extremely bright in the way that it doesn't in South Africa, for example, or if you go into Europe or further south of South Africa. James, you're wondering if there's a cave system under the rocks? No, not... Well, I mean, it depends how you define a cave, I suppose. There isn't a sort of subterranean cave system, I don't think, no. I think it's just sort of gaps between where the big boulders have fallen. So I don't think there's an actual cave system as such. Ferg, on the very pinnacle of the Den rock, there is a lizard. Can you see it? It looks like a mama lizard and a child lizard. I'm not sure how much parental care these rock agamas give to their youngsters. Can you see it there? Just keep going. Yes. No. It's closer than that. It's on the rock in front of that square thing. So if you focus pull to that rock in front there, that's it, and just sort of swing to the left a little bit. You should get there. Keep going left. Lefty. There they are. And they're just enjoying the bits of the sun. You see how they've faced their backs towards the sun? They've done that obviously to warm up. The night is chilly, and so now as the sun comes out, they will maximize the surface area that they can to face the sun. That'll absorb as much heat as possible, get their metabolisms going so that they can scuttle about on the rocks during the course of the day, catching insects for their dinner, or their breakfast, or their lunch. They eat continuously, those things. Isn't that nice to see? See how they're faced directly into the sun? Like two little mobile solar panels, if you like. And the other bits of living stuff that you can see on these rocks, I guess, would be the odd lichen. But otherwise, life is a little bit short on top of the rocks here. Now, Stefan Winterboer, I believe, was on the tracks of Hosanna the leopard. Unfortunately, I don't believe he's managed to find Hosanna the leopard just yet, but maybe he will be lucky. I've no doubt, however, in the next 5 seconds, he's going to tell you something utterly fascinating.
This is a rubbing post, and it's a rubbing post that is located close to a nice big wallow that is one of the twin dams, and it's a piece of leadwood, which means that it is incredibly hard and durable and resistant to wear. And you can see just by the covering of mud that it is used by near everything. Here you can see the mud over here that is being washed off or rubbed off by the animals coming here. I think that being so low, it's not going to be much use to anything except for warthog, potentially rhino, will rub their bums up, and hippo will come and rub their faces against it. I think that this rubbing post is likely to remain here for many years. Very cool. Now, we've just coming up to the dam. This was the last place that we ended up seeing Hosanna last night. Herbie was the last person to see him. he was drinking. He doesn't move too far from this place. He's got a fairly large territory, but there's an elephant there. Alright. Now, I didn't see that elephant, I just heard it. And it probably growled at us in response to hearing our voices. It's amazing how far sound actually travels in the bush this time of the morning. And I think there's one, if I were to guess, there's one standing on the other side of the bank in the direction you're looking at now. We have been seeing a lot of elephant tracks in this area, and would you imagine that there'd be one there? Let's walk across here and see if we can see him. Come with me. There's a fairly high riverbank here, and so it affords us the opportunity to with an elevated height get close to this elephant. Looking at some tracks over here. Something has made a urine puddle here. So you can see how it's dribbled out, and then as the animal finished with the urine, carried on walking basically, but didn't quite finish, and there was a little bit of overspray. You can see now, without sticking my finger into it, which I don't want to do this time of the morning, you can see that it's very wet but not foaming anymore. It doesn't have a very pungent smell, so I don't think that it's a predator. It has quite concentrated urine.
I think it's one of those bipedal predators.
No, Liam's seen my footprint and he said he thinks it's a bipedal, unless it was 2 years old, Liam. I don't think so. It's too small. But good bet. Alright, let's carry on going. Have a look at this giant tree. That's a jackalberry tree, one of the largest ones that we have out here. There's only another one that I know that's as big as this, and that's on Gari Cutline. And there's some turacos bouncing around inside there. And as the season progresses, we won't be able to see much more of this tree shape. It'll be obscured by the leaf cover that'll cover it up. This is a fantastic tree. Oh, Linda, you'd like to know if there's any medical plants found in the Mara that are not found at Djuma. Many, oh, Linda. There's a book that I saw in the Rangers room at the Mara called Medicinal Plants of Kenya, and a lot of the plants are just found in the Mara and the Mara Triangle. But to be honest, I haven't had a chance to actually page through the book with a tree person, someone to say, this is this tree and this is this tree. Trees and the knowledge of trees, and especially the ethnobotanical link between the people and the plants in an area, takes many years to uncover. And this year so far, at least this season in the Mara, has just been one of those things that have been busy with everything else except for learning about trees. It will come though, and I'm sure as we develop our knowledge of the Mara, it will be less restricted to the things that we know, lion, leopard and elephant and all the antelope, and we'll start to bring in more and more of the cultural uses of trees and plants in the Mara. I know for sure I will be doing that. It's something that I find very interesting indeed. Now, this is a different sort of scratching post. This you can see an elephant has rubbed up against. The tree itself providing a ridged, I suppose, obstacle for the elephant to use as a rubbing post. And you can see how tall the elephant is. There is where the mud stops. And that elephant came through here and rubbed up his body after going for a mud bath. Isn't that just fantastic? Up against this giant old jackalberry. Now, the only thing that could hurt this jackalberry is if this bank gets undercut. I see this tree's already exposed on the one side. Very deep root system. I don't think it's the first flood that this jackleberry has ever encountered. I must be honest with you, but I definitely think that given enough time, the river will eddy around this area here, and that eddying will undercut this tree, and at that point this tree will come crashing down. And I think that it's more likely that this river is going to kill this jackleberry rather than age. Beautifully healthy though. Hopefully by the time that happens, so many of its seeds have been taken by the water downstream to populate new areas. Really is fantastic. Giant old tree, eh? These trees always remind me of being the magic faraway tree. If I were to tell you one tree that was the magic faraway tree, it would be this one. Akula, you'd like to know what would I use as a natural sunscreen here, Djuma? That's actually quite a good question. I know there's a sunburn remedy in some of the aloes. We get an aloe out here that you could use the juice from as a soothing balm for sunburn. But for as a sunscreen,
mud.
I would probably, I think VM just said mud, but in terms of plants, I would probably try and weave myself some sort of covering, a cap or a hat of some sort, or panels that you could put over your arms that could shield you from the sun. There's no plant out here that has UV resistant properties. There's a bird though, and we could peel a Birchall starling or a black-bellied bustard. They've got those incredibly intensely black feathers, and you could then stick those using any type of sap, marula gum sap. You could stick those to your skin. Melanin is a fantastic UV absorber, and so if I were to say the thing that's the best UV absorbent material, naturally occurring material here, it would be the feathers of the black-bellied koran, the black feathers on the belly, or from a Birchall starling would be about the best bet for complete and total sun protection. You'd have to either stick the feathers to a medium of some sort, or stick them directly to your skin. Maybe over my nose, or create a feather cap on top of my bald head. Alright, we're going to see if Hosanna is lurking about over here. In the meantime, you're off to Scott.
I must say I'm very jealous of Steph taking you guys on a bit of a foot patrol through the sands. It's such an awesome experience, and I really do miss the bushwalk. However, we are sitting pretty here. Good prospects with these three cheetah. They haven't moved a muscle since you last were with us. They continue to look intently towards a herd of Thompson's gazelle and impala, and who knows what they're thinking or why they haven't decided to launch their attack just yet. But from what I'm told, this lady does like to do a lot of her hunting during the middle of the day. So maybe she's just waiting for things to heat up. Maybe the prey will become a little bit more lackadaisical. Hello Rick, you'd like to know if the cheetah is truly the world's fastest mammal? Yes, as far as I've been told, they are. As I guess a lot of us rely on people's research on this, and there's a few antelope that may come fairly close to them, but they are the fastest, and they reach speeds of up to 60 miles an hour, possibly just a little bit upwards of that. There was initially some people that said they could go up to about 70 miles an hour, but I've been told that isn't in fact the case. I think the only other animal that is faster than them are quite a few birds that can fly faster than them. Some of the falcons can plummet at around 300 kilometers an hour before they smash into their prey. Wouldn't that be something wonderful to be able to document? It's going to be very tricky, and we're going to need some very sophisticated technology to be able to follow avian predators, but it certainly is something that I often think about. Imagine having a camera strapped to the head of a peregrine falcon, traveling at speeds, like I said, of around 300 kilometers an hour, or a crowned eagle as it hunts monkeys through a forest. That would also be something incredible to be able to witness. For now, though, we wait patiently for these cheetah to plan their next move. It may be that they don't decide to attack these Thompson's gazelle and impala at all. However, I would be surprised if the two young boys don't get a little bit excited and try their luck if Mom isn't interested in getting them any breakfast. Hello, Lisa. You would like to know if the cheetah's claws will get any purchase into the earth when they are speeding at full tilt. And yes, I guess that is going to be the case, and that is also why they do have their claws permanently protruding, not dissimilar to a dog, whereas lions and leopards are more like your domestic cat, which has its claws in a sheath until such point that they need to use them, be it for climbing, catching prey, or defending themselves. So yes, I think it is fair to say their claws will be assisting them with a little bit of grip as they hurtle through the plains. And hopefully we will be able to show you that a little bit later. For now, though, we are going to be sending you back across to Mr. Shuka Smith to see how his morning's coming along.
Well, thank you, Scott Dyson. My morning is definitely not coming along as well as yours. Oh, hello. And we got flying over there, Manu. It's definitely not working off as well as Scott's. Oh, we have a vulture. He's coming straight at us. Does he see a carcass in our car? Nice big... Is it a leopard-faced? Yes, it is a leopard-faced vulture. Nice big leopard-faced vulture. Starting to get moving now that it's a bit warmer. Are massive, massive birds. Hello, Jeff. Double jumbo. Okay. We're going to keep moving. So, unfortunately, we haven't had any luck with that female cheetah up against the escarpment, but that's okay. We'll check for this afternoon. Maybe she heads back towards the cubs to feed them again. So I think we're going to go take a little meander, and we're going to start heading down towards the southeast. Now, it's going to be a fun day, so keep a close lookout on Facebook, because after the morning show, we're going to be staying out the whole day, so you never know when we can go live. Exciting times. Might go look for Maja Chafu female leopard, maybe look for some other female cheetah and the two male cheetah that are down in the southeast corner of the triangle. So it's lots of prospects, but since it is World Animal Week, I think I've been told, and today is Lion Day, we probably should put a lion or two on screen. It would just be unfortunate if we didn't. So I'm going to head down towards that carcass of the hippo that Jamie found yesterday and see if there's any more hyena-lion interaction around there. Oh, it is an absolutely gorgeous morning. The wind's starting to die down. I'm not a big fan of the wind, but it's warming up nicely, so getting nice and toasty. Might have to take my leg blanket off shortly. We've got some elephants. Looks like a little... Here we go. Let's get a bit to the closest one. Enjoying the time now that the wildebeest have vanished. Less hassles to deal with. No canoeing, constant canoeing to disturb them.